Welcome back to Let's Talk Racism Ireland. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. Today we're going to talk about the famous Candace Owens. It may seem as though I have a bit of an obsession with this lady. It may be the case, obviously not in a romantic way. I just feel like this lady, I'm really, really big in psychology. I'm big on psychology, and I always want to understand if someone truly believes what comes out of their mouth. I always want to understand the mind behind somebody, and that's probably one of my most toxic traits. I always sit in the presence of my biggest mentor ever, which is my mother, and whatever situation that's gone on in my life. The number one question I always ask her is, but what are they thinking? You know what I mean? Like, what way do you think that person is seeing the situation? That is always my number one. I just want to say, like, interest. I just really always want to know what way. Okay, I'm seeing it like this, and I don't just kind of write off the person or whatever. I'm like, well, in their world, in their mind, how are they seeing the situation? And that is what I found myself doing with Candace Owens. I kind of sit and ask myself, where they at? Where is she at in her head? So she had an interview with, she's made her return. The long-awaited return after she was fired from the Daily Wire, and so everyone was waiting. It would have been better if she had maybe kept a little bit hush-hush at times in between that period. It would have been a bigger bang, I think, because you're finally like, boom, the first time we're hearing, like the first time we heard from Will Smith after the slap, isn't it? It's like, boom, the first time you're going to hear it, and that probably would have done better for her show. But, she is returned now, and she was on the Piers Morgan show. She obviously, at the beginning of the interview, she tries to play it off as though, Pierce's people have been calling her, which they probably have, but let's not lie, Candace. You knew this would be a good, bit of promo for your return, so just be humble enough to say that. But she had to drop in there. I'll put it on the screen for you guys to see it.
Censored. I'm delighted to say Candace joins me now for our first ever interview. So finally, Candace Owens, we get to do an interview.
I'm very happy to be here, Piers. I promised. And honestly, credit to your producer, because she just was like, I'm going to make it happen no matter what. So
I have a bunch of ruthless Rottweilers of both genders who didn't let it go. And what did you want? Because you are a fascinating public figure. There's no question about that.
So as you can see there, her playing it off at the beginning. And this interview for me did a lot, guys. This interview was a pivotal moment for me, a pivotal moment for the story of Candace Owens. I really feel like, my mom, I always go on about her on this show, guys, as you know, but she's the wisest person I know, man or woman. Huge mentor of mine, spiritually and even, politically or, consciousness-wise, everything that I understand. Of course, we give the credit to God, but definitely the big mentor that sits me down and kind of helps me see things from a woman that's lived life perspective. And that, for me, is an honor to be able to gain that much wisdom. But she's always said to me, like, because I'm sometimes impressed by Candace's articulation. Why I don't like the term articulate, yes, I'm going to get at you. What's her name? That one who was with Vivek Ramaswamy, that blonde lady. I forget what. Ann Coulter. Yeah, she has a problem with black people complaining about articulate. Well, it's true, because articulate is always used as this standard. Now, why I don't like articulate is because we have to look at the concept of how this world developed. And how this world developed was where it said English, and anybody who speaks English a certain way is a smart person, and that's the way things went, right? And you have to understand this was by force. And now, because of the way it was, colonized, or how you can say it was enforced through colonization, this meant that anybody who did not speak English that way, or who did not present themselves in a certain way, was deemed as unintelligent, but even more so, uncivilized. I can understand you feeling like, okay, in this department of life, you are not, you know what I mean? You're not intelligent, right? Like anything in life, you go to different demographics or different, you know what I mean, types of people, and they'll have different standards for intelligence. That's fine. But the fact that because colonization said one species is uncivilized and another species is more advanced, you then get the theory that that's when you feel like Africans are going into workplaces and forcing an accent. That's when you get, look, here I am going off on a tangent, completely different, but it brought so much negative things. That's when you have people having to wear a wig in the workplace. That's got nothing to do with how you articulate yourself. It's got nothing to do with the clothes you wear. It's now attached to your species, if you want to say. It's attached to the uncivilized narrative of the primitive species, which is the African people, or anybody who is of the sorts. So this is the problem that I have with articulate. So I don't like this concept of, you know what I mean? But anyway, you know, my mom was never really impressed by Candace's articulation. I think my mom's lived long enough to realize that she's met a lot of very well-spoken idiots in this life, and, you know, Jordan Peterson being one of them. And you have these people who have beautiful ways of articulating stuff and actually in many ways weaponize that, because they know that if I use these big words, and they probably, maybe not even doing it purposefully, they're so, you know what I mean, engrossed by their own ability to use every word in the dictionary that I don't think they've grasped the level of depth that life, you know, that is needed from life. And that's what I felt like I got from this interview with Candace. I realized, wow, this woman has no depth to her. Like, and my mom's always said this woman, she's not even smart, cut her off. Because, you know me, I'm a huge fan of right-wing media. I like to listen to right-wing media. I like to understand, like I told you earlier in the episode, I like to understand the mind of somebody. Okay, well, wait, like looking deep into the soul of Ben Shapiro as I watched that screen and thinking, does he believe this? Deep in the soul of Matt Walsh, deep in the soul of Donald Trump, deep in the soul of Nigel Farage, you name it, UK, Ireland, deep in the soul of Gavin Pepper, deep in the soul of Derek Blige, if that's his name, I think so. You know, I follow across the board all right-wing media, and I'm understanding, and I have an interest in psychology. But I feel like when it came to my mother, obviously living long enough, was like, that's not a smart woman, you know. But me, again, maybe a bit hoodwinked by the smart English. Also a little bit hoodwinked by her ability to stand on certain points that maybe are, you know what I mean, I want to say righteous. You know, I don't know how to put it, but, you know, from time to time she can, you know, a clock is always right twice. A clock is right, was it twice a day, once a day? At least a broken clock is right twice a day or something like that, or once a day anyway. But what I loved about my findings here with Candace Owens is I realized her level of depth. I just realized wisdom. You know, wisdom is not only information cramming. Wisdom is a demeanor. How do I put it this way? Nelson Mandela said very little in one of his favorite interviews that I watched. You know, people like that, why they're held in such high regard, it's because the depth, the weight of who they were rested on them. And you could literally see, this ain't no other Joe from down the street. You know, whether the person had many words, whether the person had small words, you could see the, you know, wisdom rested on this person that had a demeanor about them, you know, that caused them to be the legends of you know, of this world that we know them to be. And this is when I got to see someone who kind of, although I knew this, but I saw it at a new level, like a really, almost like a college kid, you know, filled with passion and filled with what I want to say. There's a term for this. Oh goodness, it just slipped my mind right now. Zeal, so much zeal, but you can still see needs a little bit more. They'll get it when they graduate and they get into the world. You know what I mean? So much zeal, so much excitement, so much thing. But yeah, once they graduate, they'll grasp that little bit of wisdom and they'll look back and say, oh goodness, my college days. I can only imagine what her college days was if this was it. But this is not for me to listen, guys. Anybody who wants to tear down and destroy the black community, I've got to single them out. I've got to single them out. Anybody who wants to jump back and forth, like I never said anything negative about the black community, and these moments, the crazy moments on the internet where she was saying that black people were only lynched I think she said only 15 or 35,000. Like she said only, that's relative to the amount of black people there were. She kind of, to put that in an only stance, and I'll put it on the screen for you guys to see actually. I gotta put this on the screen.
So let's just start with just the case and how it's been being reported. So first you are hearing that it is a modern day lynching. That should instantly, if you are a black American and American, make your ears perk up a little bit, because there are not really modern day lynchings that are taking place in America. There are not lynchings taking place in general. I mean, even at the time, at the height of the civil rights movement, when black people were actually being lynched, it was approximately 3,500 black people that were lynched from the entire period of 1882 all the way up until 1968. All right. So that's actually a very low number relative. Not saying that lynching is okay, obviously, but a very low number relative to the population that we had at that time, or the population that we had all the way up until 1968. So lynchings are not common in general. The idea that people are going around lynching people in 2020 America, you can already know and you can smell that something is wrong with the story. All right. So before I even...
So yeah, this is Candace Owens. Candace Owens, we know who she was. There's no surprise, and it's a shame that certain black people are falling for her new rebrand. Honestly, and maybe I'll give them benefit of the doubt. They never saw the prior to the rebrand. But this is what I wanted to say. This was a pivotal moment, this interview, back to the interview with Piers Morgan, because Candace, and it was so fascinating to me because Candace was now becoming what white supremacy does to black people, where it has thrown the rocks and then hid their hand and then pointed you and said, you saw racism in that? You look crazy. And right now, Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens, the two right-wingers, are literally playing out what happens between white and black people. This is so good, guys. Where someone is saying, how did you find anti-Semitism in just me saying Jesus is king? I just coincidentally posted Jesus is king when I tweeted you back, and then using little moments of how you're a kind person and bringing you humanity. I was 38 weeks pregnant and my husband just told me, give it to God. And that's another point I want to say. This woman is now back and saying, I'm going to drag God into and vindicate me of anything. I'm not a bad person because I love God. I'm not a bad person because I'm a Christian. Honey, we're not going to make this a Christian channel. We're not going to make this a Christian channel, but let's take you to the back of nowhere with some real aunties who will pray you under the water, and they're going to look you up and down and tell you, you got a nasty spirit on you. I'm so sorry. You got a nasty spirit on you. You got a mean spirit on you. I don't think it would take one auntie to say, don't worry though, we're going to wash you in the blood. Don't worry though, we're going to put you in a 30-day fast. Don't worry though, we're going to put you in an all-night vigils every Friday night. Come on, somebody. The church kids going to know what that really look like. Come on, somebody. When they say you got a nasty spirit, we're going to get that spirit out of you. This ain't no quick 1, 2, 3. This is we are marinating in the presence of God day in and day out and saying, Lord, cleanse any wicked spirit. Listen, don't make me turn this into a gospel podcast. I can right now. That's a major side of me. But listen, she's weaponizing God and Christianity in this moment of time in order to vindicate herself and sanitize herself. So she basically says, my husband came to me 38 weeks and just told me, drop it, don't respond. And that's why he said Jesus is king. And I love this because now Ben is left flat-footed of what exactly he does to black people and all the white supremacists do to black people. And that's another point that Piers Morgan said. He said in an interview, white supremacists are after Ben. Hello, newsflash, Ben is white. But anyway, continue on. Yeah, my point is this, guys. They are now, almost lost my train of thought. They are now on either side. One is saying you're racist. The other one is saying, oh, I can't be racist because I was 38 weeks pregnant. Oh, I can't be racist because I have a husband, and just throwing those things that kind of like humanize you again because you've done it, you've whatever. And then he is left flat-footed saying, how do we catch them out? Welcome, Ben Shapiro. Welcome when you're fighting a cause for black people and then you make songs called Facts and Not Feelings. Welcome, Ben, welcome. So I just think this is hilarious that the two right-wingers, and this is a testament. Oh my God, now we're going to make this a gospel. Listen, brothers and sisters, God is going to make this whole thing, everything we're watching, Trump, UK, all this right wing, left wing, God's going to unfold and expose everything so nicely that people will be left with their pants around their ankles. And anybody with a mind is going to see, oh, the right wing are making absolute buttocks of themselves at this very moment. They are making a buttock. This is a blunder. You are both going completely. If I was right winger right now, I would say, can y'all both just stop talking, both of you, because you're exposing everything that we try to do to the left. When we gaslight, when we this, when we that, when we say get over, when you say in your feelings, when you say blah 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 blah. Now the two of you, one is saying you're just exposing everything. And I was just watching it like, wow, God. I was like, let evil destroy themselves. Let evil destroy themselves. And surely enough, they will. And this interview for me was just a pivotal moment in Candace's career, because I felt, and this is where I get, look, we're gonna have to call this a Christian podcast today. Let's talk Race from Ireland gospel segment. No, because of course that's a huge part of my life, and this was just a moment for me. Sorry about that, guys. I told you in my last episode I'm just overcoming the hay fever, so we thank God we're overcoming it. I'm sorry for the sniffles in the microphone, but this is where I was watching it that day and I was realizing, wow, like, yeah, God, you're gonna reveal everything. Everything's gonna come out in the end, And as a black person, you can get so frustrated because we live in a world of underhandedness. It's funny because I had an underhanded moment with I had to, again, I've been having a lot of trouble with my teeth to know what is going on. I had to go back for something. I had an underhanded moment with the receptionist who answered the phone, just being really, really not nice. And this points me to something I was saying today, and I'm going to go a little bit off topic, but I have to throw it in there because it's fresh on my heart. This is why I hate when black people act like, bro, man, I'm just doing my vibes, or I'm just, whether you be the person who likes to vibe and party, whether you're the black person who likes to, I'm just doing my work, I'm hustling, and my head's in the books. But this concept that once I just focus on my immediate studies or my immediate enjoyment or my immediate life, everything else will automatically fall in place, that I have no responsibility to how the world functions. And it's so funny because when I was a kid, and when I grew up, and watching kid, and you watch parents who watch the news, or you watch parents who have an opinion on the news, or opinion, you always think of like, oh, boring. But like, especially, that's why I like the white man. He's turning on the news and saying, what's happening with my world, and how can I directly dictate and say, I do not like this, I want this changed. But the black man just thinks, if I just mind my business, if I just don't focus on anything. But the Jewish man sits at home and says, what's happening on the news today? Oh, okay. I feel there's an anti-Semitic vibe going on here. Right. I'm going to use my position of power to go in. If I work on a news channel, if I work on BBC, if I work on ITV, I'm going to use, if I work in my workplace, I'm going to use that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that they're going to pump out pro-Israel stuff, or pump out, or I feel like we need to fix this anti-homophobic thing because I've got a cousin of mine who's gay and I love him so much and I never want him to feel excluded. So I'm gonna pump out now, you know what I mean, campaigns about you know what I mean, like you know, inclusivity for LGBTQ plus people. You know, he is very aware that when it's an agenda that sits on his heart and has meaning in his heart, then he's gonna go about it. Where I just feel the black man feels like this sense of like, I will just leave it in the hands of life, and everything will just work out. While everyone else is taking control and taking this and taking charge and taking initiative, I'll just focus on my immediate life. I don't give it power. I'm strong. I don't focus on what people think about me. I just focus on why man is looking at everyone watching the play and saying, like a midfielder, anybody watch football, watching the play and saying, I'm going to take control of that. I'm going to control this. I'm going to make everybody think like this. I'm going to start a news channel to make sure everyone thinks like this. And then we're just going to mind our business. We're just going to, it's silly. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. It's absolutely silly. I'm so sorry. I have to break it to you guys. It's absolutely silly. Real maturity, I realize, is looking at your life if you're living in, looking at the news, looking what's happening, and say, I'm going to change that. And that's why I love when I watch, you know, polling, those like interview polls on YouTube channels or anything like that. When the white man says he doesn't like something, he's kind of like, oh, well, I don't, you know, kind of like, I'm going to do something about this. And not just what's in my house, in my community. You know, I want people to think like this. And if they have a Sorella Braverman who's willing to lay themselves flat on the floor, prostrate themselves to use as a doormat, they say, I love Sorella Braverman. She's good vibes. I'll put it on the screen for you guys to see that clip. One of my favorite clips ever.
Sorella Braverman, who is the Home Secretary, was sacked this morning. Did you have a reaction?
Oh, I like everything she says. I don't mind sending people to Rwanda. There's too many in this country.
She shouldn't have been sacked. She shouldn't. She was only saying what a lot of people in this country were thinking.
Sad, really. I think she's got good vibes, you know. I don't see anything wrong with her. I think she's been overwhelmed by the government through, you know, the woke society, whereas we really want people like Sorella to speak up.
Good vibes. And that is why they have people foaming at the mouth, like the Rishi Sunaks, Sorella Bravermans, and all the sorts, waiting to serve at their feet because they have an agenda, they have a plan, and they have a willingness to implement that plan. This is how they colonize the world. They have a willingness to say everyone has to think like this, and they stand on it with such conviction that they say, "Who's you either join me or I'm gonna beat you." And then the Sorellas and the Rishis, and they line up and say, "Here I am, master." And the Candaces line up and say, "Here I am, master." While the black people who it's always the really kind of like intelligent black people. It's always intelligent people who've got some form of a degree, who've got their life together. And, you know, I'm not going to include the people who like vibes and party time and good times. I'm going to include the people who, you know, feel as though they are, you know, if they work very, very hard, they will defeat racism by hard work, or they can ignore it, or it won't come at their front door. It won't have anything to do with it. And it's just a very selfish way of thinking. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because, okay, you're strong-minded. Not everyone's strong-minded. And that's what I love about the white woman. That's why women don't have to go through this world being a strong white woman. You know what I mean? Like, because they have men who are in that leading their communities who are saying, I'm going to make this life favor you. Boom. That's one there. Take that one. I am you. Me and you. You're a white woman. I'm a white man. I'll be damned if this life favors the black man and the black woman over it favoring you. I'm not going to leave you to say, I'm a strong black woman. I'm just going to keep my head down and work on my... absolutely not. He's going to take charge in the narrative. He's going to say, okay, pick up the phone and say, okay, who? Johnny, yeah, can you make sure you air this at 7 o'clock to make people think that on the news? And can you make sure you air this at 9 o'clock to make sure people think this? Because we are not going to let certain things go past. The black man thinks that life is just about minding your own business. That is a slave mentality. That's your slave mentality. That's your slave mentality. What's that thing they put on the cows? What's that thing they put on the cows? Don't look left, don't look right. Just mind the little grass you got in front of you. That's the slave mentality. But we're going to move on. So listen. Back to my story. I'm getting off topic here. So basically, I call this lady, and it's a very underhanded nature, and we'll go back to the dentist situation. Both situations were very underhanded. Didn't like it at all, right? And it just made me think, and I almost tweeted it, but I didn't tweet it. You know, I always tweet my thoughts whenever. If you ever see me rambling about something, I most likely just encountered it in a coffee shop, encountered it in, in my day-to-day life, anything, hospital or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to address this. So basically, if you are waiting as a black person for things to happen overtly, if you are waiting for this life to hit you you are now, newsflash, you are now in the Western world, the professionals of underhanded nature. They will rule your life underhandedly. They're professionals. So if you're going to keep playing, still think we're playing in 1966 or 19 whatever, where everything was done overtly and people were bombing, going crazy like that, we're now in 2024. We're now in an advanced version. We are now in the tech version. Hello, wake up, welcome to Earth. It's 2024. You got to catch someone in the underhandedness, drag them out by the scruff of the neck and say, I see what you're doing. But of course, you do that very politely also. And if you're a black person waiting for them to say the N-word or waiting for that thing, and you say, oh, that's a lovely person, you got to know how to call that person up with a scruff of their neck and say, I don't like your tone. I don't know where it's coming from, but fix the tone. Fix how you're dealing with me. Quickly. It's the only way we're going to fix things in Europe. And I feel like white people are really good at dealing with us like this. And we're just so busy with and so concerned about them considering us polite or them considering us, competent or whatever, that we forget and we let pass these people. Like, we're too busy trying to override the thuggish or uncivilized or aggressive narrative that people can be aggressive with us, and we just kind of like, oh, whoa, come on, situation, like, whoa, like, I don't know how that made me yeah, you too busy trying to hold on to protect your already broken, I guess, narrative on you. Very flawed narrative on you. You're not trying to protect it, you're trying to cleanse it, And this is what I say. So it made me just think about this when I in regards to Candace Owens, in regards to this interview, in regards to everything, it's this underhanded nature. We are in an underhanded time, and you've got to, and I think I said in one of my last videos, you have got to be an intelligent person. You've got to be an awake person. You can't be sleeping. You can't be, oh, man, that person was really nice. You can't be, yes, boss, yes, boss. No, you've got to be really sharp. And the higher you go as a black person, the sharper you got to be, because the more underhanded it's going to be and the more insidious it's going to get. And if you don't have a capability and an ear to say, that tone didn't feel right, I'm going to call you up on that. I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it. I'm still getting the courage in those places where you think you have to have decorum and, oh, I can't. Oh, no, turn up in that place. Sophisticatedly turn up in that place. And if you got to be a little bit ratchet, get a little bit ratchet too. If you got to raise your voice a little bit and say, if you got to give them an eye, if you got to raise the eyebrow and say, excuse me, I wind that neck back in very quickly. Do that in a very nice way. They know they can't play on black people's name. So that's what all this interview with Candace Owens just made me think, like, wow, everything, the culture of underhandedness, how Candace can get away and say, I didn't do it, how Ben Shapiro is now, stuck in the own mud that he created of saying that facts are not feelings, but now she can say to her, Candace can say to him, facts are not feelings. And the theme for me was, wow, underhandedness is pain in the buttocks, isn't it? Can't catch it, can't diagnose it, get off a phone, can't say they said this, just knew something wasn't right about it. How do we beat this? How in this final stage? How do we overcome this? How? This is what I'm constantly doing the calculations in my mind. How do we win a battle when everything is so vague? How do we win a battle when everything is so ambiguous? How do you call up those teachers who are treating your kids wrongly in school? How do you tell your doctor that he didn't care for that black woman because she was black and he would have cared for a white patient better? How? And that's another point I wanted to make before I'm out of here. One of the other points I noticed from that phone call that affected me, and it's off point again, and I'm going to go into it, is that when the news and everything is whipping people up with this concept of black people being black people, NHS, it's on its knees, and our healthcare system, HSC, it's on its knees, and you think, I don't focus on it, it's just the news. When I went today to deal with the NHS today, I felt, I don't know how to tell you, that's why I will admit, some people say the government causes division because people are now feeling like, okay, you're calling me, you're asking for a slot on the NHS, you're asking, you're coming here. My grandma's been waiting ages to be seen. You're the one causing this. You read out your name. What's your name? Big, long African name. Luffy Bidela. Now they're thinking you're not British. You're not Irish. You're not this. Now my nanny's not getting seen. My auntie who's in the waiting list for ages not getting seen. And this friction is being caused. Now someone is kind of telling you, listen, you're going to have to wait. Oh, you're going to have to whatever. Being dealt with in a way where it's a second-class citizen. Oh, look, it's you carrying the way. And if you're not awake, black people, you won't read the room. You won't read the tempo. There's nobody who's an adult who cannot miss the fact that there's so much anxiety being caused and they're telling you 10,000 people are coming in a day from the boats and telling you everything, and you're being injected with fear and injected with comfort. So you're thinking, like I told you white people do, what can I do to help what's happening to my country? Okay, I work in a receptionist for a dentist. Okay, an African called looking for an early space for an emergency, but I know there's a white lady who I just got off the phone with who's also looking for emergency. Well, he's got to come second. That's my little footing I can do. And people always ask me, Harrison, you talk about black consciousness. Well, what can we do when we have black consciousness? What can we do with it? These are the things that create it. Now when we have a black person who's indoctrinated by our way of thinking, when he's in the workplace, when he's a receptionist or she's a receptionist at a nursing place, she thinks, okay, my black people are being put to last. I'm going to make sure I put there. And all the little pieces that we do, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a dentist or a receptionist, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're a police officer, whether you're everything, we are understanding our trouble. Whereas black people always want to put it out, all the same. All one. Oh, kumbaya, ooh, yeah. And you're neglecting the genuine struggles of your people, the genuine things we're going with day in, day out in this underhanded world that we can't pinpoint, and we just oppressed, going through it. I know. I can't come out and say shit that because I'm black, because I don't know it. But if everyone's thinking that way, okay, I'm a receptionist, I work reception, I hear a phone, what's your name, please? Oh, Tolu Ankambwe. Tolu. Okay, all right, Tolu, I'm going to look for a place for you. Because if that next white lady handle her, she's not going to handle her right. Usually you would send her and put her on a collect call. Okay, no, okay, let me just put you on hold. I'm going to deal with you. That's not favoritism because you know this world not treating black people properly. So you work for, I don't know, you work for a bank. You work for a bank. And you know they're not going to give her that long. Okay, listen, I'm back on Thursday, right? I'm going to be off today. You call me back on Thursday. Or you come back in the back on Thursday and we'll try and sort out that thing for you, that loan for you. Because you know how they're treating black people. Or we're going to try and figure out a pricing for your house that you're trying to sell. This is what and we create an ecosystem that they know, you want to know why they're hating Asian people at the moment? Because those people love themselves too. And I will not say much on that. Because they know the Asians, they gave the Asians an inch and the Asians done took a mile. They empower now. They're in all sorts. When they get to a place, they're looking for their own import and export with other Indian people. Open up shop. All right, cool. You open a convenience store here, there. It doesn't start with just open a convenience store. It's a mentality. It's a vibe. It's a countenance. It's a way of life. It's a lack of self-hatred and a raving amount of self-determination. Guys, I really hope today I put that as nicely as I could put that. You ask me what is it? In this underhanded world, we have to all be on the same page. Now when I get into a building, and one of the main things we know as black people, you get if I see a black person, I'm probably more likely to be treated badly. Because he's too busy trying to impress his boss and show, it's a black person, I didn't know. You know, you can trust me. I'm not one of them. You can trust me. And you get handled terribly. You're a woman. I heard a woman who she's a great, she's a midwife, talks about how black women might even treat you worse as midwives. Don't even get too gassed up when you see a black woman who's your midwife. It may even get worse for you. Black women will actually I've seen black women treat white women during pregnancy better, just to make sure they really hit the nail on the head with master. Make sure they get their spit shined out nice and clean so masters see how well they can operate. But when it's with a brother and sister, I have leeway, I can whatever. This is why self-determination starts with the mind. We're not going anywhere. Don't ask me about opening no damn bank. Don't ask me about opening no damn business. Don't ask me about opening no damn nothing. That's all the black people who keep asking me. Like, what do we start? Do we start a program? Don't ask me about opening no damn nothing. Let us start with educating. Once I feel there's an air between black people where we have this understanding, we've educated ourselves of where we come from, where we need to go, where there's not this false kumbaya. You don't go to Jewish people and get this false kumbaya. Everyone knows, everyone's on key. Yeah? Holocaust? Cool. We're not going down. Anti-Semitism? Where? Who said it? Why? All right, cool. He works there? Cool. Get that person out the job. No, I don't. I'm done, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I gotta go. I could be here all day. That's why I'm getting myself too caught up right now. I gotta go. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And I'm on a mission for you.